Hello everybody and a warm welcome to this TRUSTS webinar today on the 29th of October. My name is Martin Kaltenberg. I'm co-founder and CFO of the Semantic Web Company, one of the partners of the TRUSTS project, and I'm happy to do moderation today and give introduction into this webinar. So TRUSTS, Trusted Secure Data Sharing Space. This is what it's all about. This is the first webinar of a webinar series that introduces today the project and the most important areas of our TRUSTS project. So you see the agenda now on the screen. We are in the middle of the welcome and introduction by myself, and then we will go through a very full and interesting program today. We will have Peter Bruck by the Data Intelligence Offensive, DIO telling us about the European data strategy and the Austrian perspective of trusts, followed by Natalia Simon by the International Data Space Association, telling us about the market study of data markets, followed by Ioannis Markopoulos by Forthnet. The title of his presentation is Creating Innovative Data Ecosystems, then followed by Bert Uttermark of G1, telling us about the operator business model of trusts in federated systems. And then we go ahead, Charlotte de Coin, if I learn, so Charlotte, sorry for that, by the KU Leuven, Legal and Ethical Pillars of Trusts. Benjamin Heitmann by Fraunhofer, Germany, telling us about the technical foundation. And finally, Silvia Castelvi, again from the International Data Space Association, IDSA, telling us about future, reach out and stakeholder analysis regarding the Trusts project. Then we will have a question and answering session and a closing by myself again. So if you have any questions, there is a chat module in GoToWebinar. Just feel free to put your questions during the whole webinar session into this chat. We will pick the questions from there at the very end in Q&A session, put them to the speakers, and if you give us the name of the person you would like to answer, that also is helpful, but otherwise we will pick the person for you or put it into the panel to answer that question. As a note, this webinar is being recorded. So the slides and also the recording will be provided to all registrants after the webinar around 1 week. It takes a little bit of time to prepare, and we will send out emails to everyone to let you know. And as said, any questions, put into the chat. A few words about TRUSTS itself. So the Trusted Secure Data Sharing Space. The context of the project is it aims to develop a data sharing platform for secure, trustworthy exchange of data. And it is based on 2 national data market projects that were already accomplished. One is the Data Market Austria, and the other one is the Industrial Data Space in Germany. And it will allow the integration and adoption of future platforms and data markets also into different legal systems. So one strong focus is also on the legal perspective. We will hear something by Charlotte a little bit later. The objectives of our project, as you can see on the slides, there are 2 main objectives that we have in place. The one is to create this secure and trustworthy European data market. It's very important. We also have 2 areas, 2 industries that we focus on, that is financial industry and operations industry. We'll see it on the next slide. And the second project objective is to identify and to overcome the legal, the ethical, the technical challenges of such a cross-border data marketplace, so that we really can support and we foster and maybe we bring competitive advantage to the European data economy, because we see data is used everywhere to push economy. So data economy in China, the US, and in other areas of the world are maybe leading at the moment, and Europe shall not be behind. So TRUSTS has a very strong focus on this. As I said, the 2 main areas are financial and telecommunication sector, 3 use cases: anti-money laundering, agile marketing, and improved customer support services by data acquisition. You can see we have 17 partners that are based in 9 countries, and it is a Horizon 2020 project. You see the grant number. It's important. It's for 3 years. We have started in January 2020, so this project goes until the end of 2022. This is all about my introduction for the beginning. You've learned a little bit what is TRUSTS all about, but now we go into the details and you will hear overview and insights into our project. The first one I hand over to Peter about European data strategy and the Austrian view of TRUSTS. The floor is yours, Peter.
Thank you very much, Martin. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
That's wonderful that you gave this introduction. Can I have the next slide right away? Because the context in which we have this webinar is the European data strategy. And the European data strategy is focused on a single market, single space. So what is the strategy? If you look at the slide on the top left side, you see that there are 4 circles which reach into each other. And the one circle is, first of all, that the European idea is to have a free data flow within the European Union across sectors. So this is what Martin also already addressed. The second thing is that we need to have the availability of high quality data for innovation and also for real added value and use. And the third one is to have the rules and the values of Europe respected, even for those who come from the outside, for instance, like American Silicon Valley providers, and to develop further our rules and our governance mechanisms. If you look to the bottom of that slide, you see what are the problems which are to be addressed, which is the area in which the problem area in which the European Union sees the issues which we are addressing today in this webinar. And there's first of all the issue that there's not enough data available, especially for reuse. And that is a real issue in terms of public sector data, but science data, open government data, and so on. And we need to basically move in that direction. That is the assumption of the European Union. The second thing is the lack of European data processing capacity and storage, the dominance of the Americans in terms of IDSA, in terms of Microsoft, Google, and others. And the issue, what do we have as European cloud services provided? And you know that there are a number of countries where there are national clouds as projects, as government projects, but they do not succeed so well. Then there is an issue in terms of comprehensive data governance approaches and what are the governance. And as Martin said before, we are also addressing this in the TRUSTS project. And then there's a skill shortage and no real user empowerment and a fragmentation in terms of European Union. So if we go to the next slide, you see that there are 4 pillars. To the top right, you see there are 4 areas. First of all, there's a governance issue, then there's an enabling issue or a pillar, a competence pillar, and a rollout of European data spaces. For this webinar, 2 areas are important, the enabler and also this common European data spaces. Why is the enabler important? Because you all want to know that the European Union has decided to spend 4 to 6 billion euros on a high impact project on European data spaces and federated cloud infrastructures. What is the TRUSTS project doing? It is exactly paving that way. So there is a very important aspect for you to understand in this webinar that this is actually what we are talking about. And the second thing is that there's a rollout for common European data spaces. Listen, spaces, not one space, but spaces. And therefore, TRUSTS has this kind of federated approach. Which are the spaces which are being seen? If you go to the bottom of that slide, you see that there are 9 spaces. I don't have to reiterate them for you, but it's interesting for you to see that these are the priority areas. But into these priority areas, there are 2 sides and 2 aspects which are feed in. On the one hand, personal data spaces, speak, for instance, social media, and then high value data sets from the public sector. Here we need to see that the European Union is committed. The Commission wants to create incentives, especially in the areas of geospatial data, in terms of Earth observation and environment, and also in terms of companies and company ownership, basically registries, if you want to say in that broader sense. These are the areas, and if you look and are interacting with this kind of entire topic and theme, you will see that Deloitte will publish together with the European Commission in the next weeks a special roadmap for addressing this area of high-value data sets from the public sector, on the assumption that this will create a more input and more impulse and be driving the development. Let's go to the next slide. From the Austrian perspective, what we have done in Austria is we have had a Lighthouse Project for the last 4 years, and this Lighthouse Project has basically 3 aspects. First of all, it gives a conceptual view of what is a data market ecosystem. So the entire approach is an ecosystem approach. The second one is to have a mall concept. So instead of having one solution for everybody, we provide a platform onto which various different partners can have their solutions, their hubs, their data exchange technologies. And the third one is that we developed a proof of technology prototype. If you look at datamarket.at, you can see that all the results from this project are in English language deliverables. And these deliverables are quite interesting because they deal with how to start up an ecosystem, what is a community-driven data space. It has an input in terms of blockchain design and technology, and it has also some reports on legal, societal, and cultural aspects, which are quite valuable and also important for trusts. If we go to the next slide, please. What did we learn from this Austrian Lighthouse Project? 3 things. First, we learned that there's a very uneven understanding. I specifically say not lack of understanding, but there is an uneven understanding in terms of the readiness to work. People think still it's a CIO topic and not a CEO topic. It's not an executive topic. They see that there are safe use, secure rights, privacy rules, and robust technologies as their concerns, but not how to create value from innovation. The solutions are not trusted, and there's a vendor lock-in. There's a clear understanding that one does not want to get into dependency, and there's a dominance of the American players, which is basically a market structure, power structure, and market failure. In Austria, we address this with the data intelligence offensive, which is also the invitation and the cooperation for you to participate in this webinar, and where Nina Poppendon and Manuela Schlemmer work with you and others to basically create a different kind of understanding environment and readiness environment. The second thing is that we learned that we need to have better examples. And we developed in this project data circles, the data circle approach, to break things down and to understand how the ecosystem is clearly structured and whom do we have to invite. And we are in Austria now developing 5, 6, 7 such data circles in the area of production, in the area of mobility, in terms of farm and agriculture. And lastly, we have understood that we have to get better solutions and to work together in terms of a federated solution. And this is where the TRUSTS project is the pillar for the European strategy, but also the real outcome from the Austrian strategy. Let me give you one last thought on this. The importance of trust is that we are working together based on the core concept of data sovereignty regarding data exchange, data sharing, and data trading. And data sovereignty is not just a value, but it is an architectural, technology, design, and principle of operation. And this is what this webinar is all about. I very much welcome you to join us and to work with us also past this webinar. Thank you, Martin, for letting me speak. Here you have just on the next slide the references. And I thank also Daniel Rizzi from the Director General from the European Commission for his input on the slides. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. That was a great introduction and overview about the framework of Europe regarding data spaces and also the Austrian view. So we directly go to our next speaker. Once again, just a reminder, questions, put them into the chat. We're happy to give them to the panelists in the Q&A session at the end of the presentations. Our next speaker is Natalia Simon from International Data Spaces Association. And Natalia, you will tell us about the study on data markets. Please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Martin, for this very kind introduction. And thank you also, Professor Brück, for this valuable insight on the European data strategy and your view on the TRUSTS project. I will go now over to a little bit more practical part of this webinar, which is answering the question how we really want to implement the goals of TRUSTS. And one part of the answer is that we really want to make a comprehensive overview on the environment of the market of data markets. And in this context, we are elaborating a study on data markets. And the purpose of this study on data markets is to build a really common knowledge base within the project, also to provide insights on current trends in the field of data markets, and also to provide, in the end, recommendations for the implementation of TRUSTS. And let me put this shortly into context of the whole project. The project is containing three main parts. The one part is the technology development, the other part is the stakeholder engagement, and then the bottom and the top box, you can see the economical and the business part of the project. And to really achieve a sustainable result of this project, and it is necessary to have this comprehensive knowledge base, and therefore exactly we are creating and elaborating the study on the data markets. Next slide, please. Next, yeah. So the question is, what exactly is the study containing? And we started with a really very core of data markets by defining what is a data market. And basically, it's an intermediary that matches data providers and data buyers, and that facilitates data exchange. We also found already out that current challenges in this field are, for example, pricing mechanisms and data valuation, also monetization schemes or control over data quality and integrity. But we are not stopping at this point. Next slide, please. We are going a little bit deeper into this topic. We are analyzing the complete framework conditions or the general framework conditions of data markets. We are, for instance, analyzing what is the impact of the European data strategy and its implementations on the data markets. What, for example, are economical aspects we have to keep in mind while working on the TRUSTS project? For example, the very fast digitalization in the last time. Also, we are having an eye on the technological analysis or the technological parts affecting the data markets. For example, what architectures are on the market currently, what infrastructure, what components and standards the data markets are consisting of. And of course, we are also analyzing technological trends in this field. As a last point for the framework conditions, we will have an eye on the legal framework and regulations. Next slide, please. But to achieve a really complete understanding of the whole data market is we are analyzing also the competition structure. Please, next. We are, for example, analyzing how is the rivalry among the existing competitors. Is it really a competition or is it more a co-opetition? Next slide, please. We are having here these are questions that we will answer in the study. For example, also we are analyzing what is the threat of the new entrants. Is this profit pool really interesting so that many other companies will step into the market? Next, please. We will also have an eye on the threat of substitute products. For example, what kind of products will appear? What kind of products are already there? How is the data sharing currently managed? And next, yes, we are also having an eye on the power of the buyers. Are the buyers capable of bypassing the data markets? And we will have an eye on the power of suppliers. Is there a direct power or maybe an indirect power? And all these questions we would like to answer in our study to get this comprehensive view. And next slide, please. We welcome you, everybody, to also collaborate on this study with us. You could also participate in the Trust Advisory Board, you could participate in some of the focus groups or the workshops and yeah, this regular webinars that we will have in the next months together with you. And if you want to get in contact with us, for example, visit the website of the TRUSTS project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for giving us insights into the study that we're working on. Just a short one, when will it be published?
It will be published officially in June 21, but first results will be available earlier.
Super, thank you very much. So maybe some people are interested when they can read that study. Thank you very much. We go into the third presentation, that is by Yanis from Forthnet, telling us about creating innovative data ecosystems. Yanis, are you here?
Yes, thank you for the invitation. Thank you really all three of you providing these very insightful presentations about what trust is and how we embed our project, our developments within the ecosystem and the strategy of the Commission towards this direction. But it's not only the Commission strategy, it's also an industrial strategy. And from this point of view, today here I'm somehow representing the industrial point of view. I am glad to participate in such a project that has a 360, I would say, point of view on all the elements that are important for the development and mainly operation of a data marketplace. So we tackle up all legal issues, standards, technical, ethical, and business processes, and the way to attract businesses in order to incorporate their systems, their processes, their data, their services within our ecosystem. So yes, indeed, in the past we had very significant initiatives in the data marketplace ecosystem from various points of view, even in areas that in times that things were not mature enough. Such initiatives were in its infancy, but they were developing. So far, we do not have a massive acceptance of these endeavors from the community, I mean the industrial community. Of course, there are vertical data marketplaces that assist the respective economies, but we do not see massively various industries adopting this and incorporating the standard way. This is somehow what we would like to offer as a proposition, as a value proposition to this industry, and we would like to identify what would be the key points that would create this value for the industry to interoperate with such platforms and such ecosystems. So what we do is actually analyze what currently exists from the data marketplace, industrial data spaces, very valuable initiatives from the past, and also significant projects such as SafeDid, which provide really significant results on both theoretical and practical level. We understand and we try to analyze tendencies such as Gaia-X and standards and all the legal perspective that is currently in place, but also what is upcoming in order to assist such a data exchange economy. So what we would like to do is to offer an end-to-end infrastructure, end-to-end platform, and end-to-end business environment at the end of the day, incorporated technologies and processes and standard interfaces. Thank you very much. You've been proactive, but rightly went in the next slide. So what we would like to do is to offer this opportunity, an end-to-end standardized environment for the industries to adopt it and include it in their everyday business processes. We understand, as Peter said before, we are not alone and we will not be alone at the end of the day. Hopefully will not be alone, and the total ecosystem of data marketplace will proliferate with additional initiatives besides ours, in collaboration with ours, or even competitive to ours. This is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. If there is interesting industrial and academia initiatives in this domain, then the whole economy will proliferate through competition and through collaboration. How we envisage this is to create multiple nodes with end-to-end facilities, end-to-end processes, and end-to-end applications. What we envisage is a data marketplace will not only be a supermarket for exchanging data, no matter how well we define them, and accompanying with them with metadata and respective standards. We would like to offer a set of unified search capabilities for services that are able to analyze data and offer value-add analysis on end-to-end process data. We would like to accommodate business processes. We would like to accommodate manufacturing processes in order to be able to collaborate, to enable collaboration between different companies, and at the end of the day, start from the design of such materials, for instance, towards the development and delivery of the end product. So our platform, our proposition will have a core set of functionalities as a core operation system with a consistent service onboarding, data onboarding, service catalog, subscription management, and of course GDPR compliance and quality assurance transactions, and standardized interfaces. On top, we would like to collaborate with SMEs and data providers, both in public academia and private sector, to offer their services, offer their data, and seek for potential users of them for a benefit in a way or another. Digital economy will also be assisted by inherent existence of smart contracts in this direction. And as we understand that we are not alone in the ecosystem, we would like to offer federation capabilities. Federation means that will be able to collaborate transparently with other platforms to the best of the common abilities. So we will be able, through this federation mechanism, to exchange data, services, catalogs, and assist our and their subscribers, their users, to use each other services and data in a transparent way. In this way, we envisage that we will create a unified end-to-end ecosystem. Martin, could you go to the last slide? Thank you. So, concluding, what is really important from the industry point of view is to create this unified ecosystem of services, datasets, metadata around consistent set of interfaces, standards, operations, and compliance. End-to-end business processes accommodation is valuable and vital for the industry. Otherwise, industry may find ways to exchange data between different companies, but this will be done in an ad hoc manner, and each time we should have to have the same type of approval. In this way, all this business exchange, this data exchange and service exchange is prohibited by heavy processes that are inherent in large organizations. So having a proposition of a consistent set, harmoniously blending services, data, and processes, and APIs, this will enable large industries to have a permanent, constant collaboration with such trusted platforms, and being able to find collaborators in terms of new products, new material, new ideas, new data, and new services. And in this way, we envisage that the whole digital economy will proliferate throughout this end-to-end federated data marketplace ecosystem. We hopefully be one of the core parts in this initiative. Thank you very much for your attention. And of course, I'll be willing to get your questions and respond to your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yanis, about this also very interesting things that you have put on the plate to think about. And you also gave the right remark. If there are questions, put them into the chat to Yanis, to Peter, to Natalia, to whomever. Our next speaker is Bert. Bert, are you here? Hopefully that works. We had a little bit of issues bringing Bert into the panel, as I have learned. Let's see.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah, now we can hear you. Bert, welcome. Good to have you here. You will
thank you,
tell us
Martin.
about the business model development. I will mute myself. The floor is yours.
Absolutely, that's correct. Let's jump straight in. So TRUSTS is a Europe-funded research and development project within Horizon 2020. So obviously, all we do is not only to benefit, one slide back, is not only to benefit us ourselves, but all constituents in the data economy. So linking exactly to what Professor Brook elaborated on and also what Yanis said, there are different layers that we look at, and obviously we're not going to look at technology, but also at developing business model. So the first layer is that of a data market, which in itself is already peculiar in that the value unit here becomes data, not collaboration around data necessarily, not data sharing per se. But it's something that is required in the wider data landscape, and we're going to look into this. The second layer, which now sets us apart, is that we, with a dedicated focus, look into data market federation. And we've seen that obviously when one thinks of data market from an economic perspective, this small approach may not be business-wise sustainable. But we learned, for example, in the Austrian data market project, the power of the concept of data circles, which can be imagined as solution-focused collaborative data spaces that also are linked to a data market or form integral part of a data market. And last but not least, there is on, of course, the question, what else is needed to position a data market and data market federator in a helpful, meaningful sense in the wider data economy. So what additional, potentially pre-economic roles have to be taken on in order to make the own platform function, but also to really help and support the wider European data economy. Next. So if you take data as a starting point, so data here becomes the value unit, then as a first step, one certainly would look into potential business models, because at the end of the day, we want to understand more clearly for ourselves, but then also share this knowledge. How can data be used to create value also through trading? So if one goes and leverages this vast amount of data available and transforms it, then one can go into trade, one can go look into services. And all in all, one clearly and very quickly sees that it's not just a simple trade of data, but that this happens within a complex ecosystem that brings together also additional technologies and services, brings together constituents that form the wider ecosystem. Next. So in this sense, yes, of course, in the center, if we try this data market model, the market stands in the center and it brings together data sellers and data buyers, but it relies on other players here. So infrastructure providers play a crucial role. So do third-party service providers or independent brokers. And we need to understand more clearly who actually can tap in this value pool to have profitable and sustainable operations. Next. So utilizing the data landscape tool that has been produced for the European Commission, We already see, if you look at the numbers, and this is of course a tool that is constantly evolving, there's a very small number only of data marketplaces in existence. Players that actually are in the same domain are not necessarily marketplaces, and we've seen over the past 10 years in particular numerous approaches of setting up data markets that have failed, data markets that started and shut down again. However, because they can also be used with their technologies and with their solutions in other domains, players in the analyticals domain, ICT enablers, vertical apps providers, they are way more numerous. And so we need to see and explore how we can position a data market, what place a data market can play, because data market will be in competition with these other players. And obviously, we try to find a way to help integrate these players in a wider data landscape. Next. So beyond just being a data market, because we see there is a value pool to be tapped into, we have a particular focus both on the technology side and also on the business research side to understand and conceptualize how we can function as a federator that brings additional value to the market and maybe finds a unique positioning. And to that end, the current thinking is that of a meta platform, so to speak, a market of markets that connects in a hierarchical structure initially other data markets or large data sources and providers to a centralized platform, thereby leveraging their specialization, maybe in a certain data domain, to increase both data supply and serve wider areas of data demand. Going forward, this may as well evolve into a federated structure that has more a peer-to-peer player, so that data markets then focus on specializing themselves in their niche they've chosen, for example, through integrated or openly linked services and infrastructure, so that they can go into a real competition. But to get started, we will choose a hierarchical meta platform, and we will focus on data trading. And we will see in what far this influences the value pool and what far this creates value for all concerned players. And this is part of our research. And then obviously this links then back lastly to the question of the ecosystem facilitation. In order to make this happen and to bring so many different constituents with proprietary technology together, what is to be done to really help leverage what we do in the project and potentially then in an operational platform for the wider economy? And this can of course range from being a very strong and admired player, but this is very far out, obviously. We're getting started with the project here. So there might be other things we may want to do, and we really invite you to reach out to us. We'll reach out to you to play with us, to find joint answers to common problems. So it could be that additionally there must be the role fulfilled of an evangelist industry association. In a way, what the Data Intelligence Offensive did in Austria is exactly that. It's an outflow of the Data Market Austria project. And it was very clear at the early stage of the project, we must have organizations that form a platform for dialogue and development of joint standards. There are additional possibilities how we can help in the ecosystem, but they certainly need to be explored, particularly with their business and financial impact. So at the end, we are in an interesting spot. We need to match the ambition of the competition realities with also the clarity around the manifestation of the European data strategy and how other players react to that. But we see ourselves, because we are European Union funded, as an open R&D project, and we really invite everybody to play with us to also explore the business realities behind it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bert. interesting insights into the business model and the very important thing of an operator of a data market and of a data market of data markets. Charlotte, your next very important part is legal and ethical pillars of trusts. If we share data with each other, secure and trusted, then we for sure need a legal framework and an ethical framework. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. Thank you to colleagues for their very interesting presentations. Although I'm familiar with the project, I still learn a lot. I don't know whether it's a good sign or not. But okay, so on our side, we are dealing with the legal and ethical aspects of the project. We know now that data markets, not that they are completely new, but if we want to make them really legally compliant, so to say, well, that's something quite new. We don't really know yet how to make data markets compliant and work well. One of the other challenges that we have is how to bring trust to participants, something that has been touched upon by many colleagues before. And traditionally, it's the law that brings trust, so that questions the role of the law here. I'm not going into all the details of the interactions between the law and data markets because it's many, but just to give you a taste of the questions that we're dealing with here. So first, data markets are based on the commodification of data. That's something that's technology driven, but also now business driven, but that's something that the law does not fully support. The law does not consider that you can own a data or datum, just like you can own a smartphone or a table. It's more complicated than that. As we all know, we have very context-specific legal regulations. If you think of the GDPR and data protection law, I think it's very clear that nobody, even the data subject, has property rights on the data. They cannot sell their data. They keep having certain rights on the data even after the data have been processed by somebody else, even based on consent. You have the purpose limitation, you have proportionality principles, and so on and so forth. And GDPR data protection is only one example. All legal regulations are very context specific, and they happen to touch data sometimes very incidentally. If you think of intellectual property rights, they don't apply to data as such. Data are not the subject matter of any intellectual property rights, but they might be affected by intellectual property rights, such as in the EU, copyright law, and especially the sui generis legal protection on databases. So what does it concretely mean? It means that we have to go through very context-specific legal analysis. And one of the challenges that we have now in the field of data markets is that the law, broadly speaking, can be an obstacle to the scalability of data markets. I don't think that the law in itself prohibits data markets. We can find ways around. But I'm more careful about the scalability of data markets because you would have, in data markets, you want to be able to trade data no matter what they're about, no matter who exchanges data with whom. But from the legal perspective, all these aspects, all these context aspects will have to be taken into account in an almost ad hoc basis. So that's one point. Another point that I think is very significant one, and that has been taken up by the European Commission in its recent data strategy, is the question of the role of intermediaries in the value chain of data markets. So we've had those very interesting presentations of colleagues looking at who is involved in data markets. We have the data provider, we have the data users, and who is, so to say, in the middle to make it work. From a user perspective, you need to be able to trust that it's going well, that what you want to do with your data is indeed performed. And in order to do this, you need to have some view on who is doing what, who is responsible for what. And in case something doesn't work, I should have redress. I should be able to get redress. So this is a challenge that we are looking into as well. So how to clarify the role of intermediaries and how to bring trust. So certification for example, could be a means to bring trust. So you can certify this and that role so that people know in advance, well, okay, I know that this and that role are this, and if there's a problem, I know who to go to. So the question is whether you need the law to endorse this, to endorse certain certification, whether the law can play a role here. Another aspect that I wanted to touch upon is what we lawyers call technoregulation. So regulation is not limited to the law. We know that markets also has a regulatory role. Social norms do have a regulatory role, and technology in a way has a regulatory role. And in law and technology, we are used to this complementary or sometimes competitive role of regulation of technology to regulate. To give you an example, a very concrete example here, you've heard of data sovereignty, you've heard of smart contracts. So these are technological tools to enforce the exchange of data in the data markets. Data sovereignty being based on the ability for the data provider to have their terms and conditions enforced, and smart contracts being the automation of the data transactions. I'm doing this quickly, so to say. And from the legal perspective, we have this question, well, how does the law deal with this? We have legal enforcement. Legal enforcement is if you have a problem, you go to court. So now if you have a problem, you go to technology that enforces your rights or what you consider is your right. How do we analyze this from the legal perspective? So that's another, I think, very significant question that we have here. So these are some of the questions that we deal with the overall objective to develop a robust legal and ethical framework for the TRUSTS platform to ensure sustainability, compliance of the innovation brought about here, with all regulations and the ethics principles that are here. And by doing this, we want to go way beyond mere compliance exercise. We need to use this project to test legal innovations that are there, legal ideas, how we could regulate data as an economic asset to see whether it works. That's why, for instance, we take into account the proposals that are there in the data strategy of the European Commission or scholarly proposals that are around. But I'm not going into this direction. This is only a teaser for the following webinar. Next slide, please. So I'll be very quick on that. Is just I wanted to illustrate what I just said, that we need to look into many legal frameworks in a complementary manner. So we have especially two trends. First one is we have to look at TRUSTS ecosystem and especially data market ecosystem as one. And then we have the use cases. So the specific data exchange or data services that are being tested in the project. So it takes us to this long list of legal branches that we have to look into. So data protection is the obvious, let's say. We have to look into the interface between data protection law and anti-money laundering law, because we're dealing with financial aspects here. We have to deal with how data as an economic asset and how data transactions are regulated, which is sometimes, unfortunately, not harmonized at EU level, meaning we sometimes have to look at national law. Then we have to look at, for instance, financial law, blockchain, and smart contracts and their interaction with the law. So a very broad area of legal branches that have to be looked at in comprehensive manner. So that's what we are doing now. And well, we'll give it more, we'll continue the research, and during the next webinars of this very interesting series, we'll be able to go into more details in these various branches. So stay tuned. Thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. A very interesting topic and a very broad topic. So as Charlotte said, be tuned, stay tuned for the next webinars. We will go into the legal framework and the ethical framework in detail then. And then you also can discuss with Charlotte in this direction. We have two short talks left and time is running. So Benjamin from Fraunhofer will tell us about technical foundation of trusts. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Yeah, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the technical foundation. And the most important thing to keep in mind for the technical foundation is that it has to enable and provide the means for data sovereignty. Now, the starting point for the trust technical infrastructure are experiences and technology from two European data marketplaces that are already existing. And one is from Germany and the other is from Austria. We already have heard about the Data Market Austria project in the first part of this webinar. And in addition, TRUSTS is based on the international data spaces infrastructure. Right, and so those already provide experiences on how to enable data sovereignty to a certain degree. And they also provide different national perspectives, which is very important. Yeah, so because when we talk about data sovereignty, there's different perspectives on what that means to maintain this sovereignty. In addition to these existing infrastructure, there's of course the novel contributions of trusts, which are goals. And so the first one is to have stronger controls in situations where just legal contracts and existing levels of enforcement are not enough. And I want to talk on the next slide about that in a little bit more detail. In addition, there's matchmaking based on profiles and brokerage for users and organizations in a more advanced way. Then there is data governance that's enabled by semantic technologies that goes beyond current capabilities. And then finally, there's the design of this whole project for interoperability with other data marketplaces. Right, as we have seen before, the idea of a federation of federations. So yeah, now in addition, there is a very strong focus on enabling and maintaining data sovereignty with additional guarantees, like I said, beyond just contracts. And this is one of the most important technical goals of the project beyond the pure infrastructure. And that has multiple building blocks. There are classifiers and transfer learning, which is very close to the existing state of the art in machine learning, but enabled for data sovereignty. There's deep learning, which is concerned a lot with reusable models. Then there's anonymization, and then actually in this project, very importantly, the complement, the assessment of a de-anonymization risk. And then there's federated deep learning with additional privacy protections. All of this will be integrated in the framework for adapting algorithms that don't preserve privacy and security into the equivalent versions of those algorithms that do preserve those properties, right? And so that's a quick overview of the technical foundations, and there will be its own webinar later in 2021 on these areas. And I'm looking forward to anybody interested to join that webinar later. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Benjamin, for bringing the overview of the technical building blocks of trusts. And yeah, as I'm technician, I'm also very much interested in what I will learn and we can learn then from the follow-up webinar in this area. Finally, we have one speaker, that is Sylvia from the International Dataspace Association, telling us about stakeholder engagement. So how can you be part or become part of trusts? Sylvia, please tell us.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to explain the activities that we are developing in TRUSTS project. And I would like to start my speech with these words from the commissioner, Mr. Thierry Breton, that he said that he wants European business and our SMEs to access high quality data and create value for Europe. So for this reason, as Peter and Bert explained it before, the European strategy for data is very important. But furthermore, when COVID hits the world a few months ago, the data ecosystems is showing not just remarkable resilience, but exciting vibrancy. So we realize that the data technologies are on the heart of the digital transformation. And as a result, many companies in data ecosystems have not just survived despite the situation, but in fact, thrived. So we see here how this data landscape is changing. The next slide, please. And as a TRUSTS consortium, we realized when we present this project that a vital data economy and a successfully working data service ecosystem in Europe is one of the factors to enable and ensure sustainable employment and growth, and thereby societal stability and well-being. So one of the objectives of TRUSTS Consortium is to create sustainable business model for TRUSTS platform and assure that the exploitation and the innovation impact of the activities that we will develop in this project. To achieve this objective, it will require to analyze the market, as Natalie has explained, and also build a community of stakeholders around this data service ecosystem that we are going to promote and to create, and also to ensure the long-term sustainability of data service ecosystem beyond the end of the funding period. Next slide, please. So how to start to create this community? So to achieve this objective, outreach and engage with the stakeholders and the wide public of great importance for this project, this is the task of the stakeholder management and community engagement strategy. And for creating this data ecosystem with the stakeholders, we have several questions. How this data service ecosystem looks like? Which are the key stakeholders for this project? We are working on this question, and how to engage these stakeholders, the stakeholders, to create a solid community. This task will answer these questions, collecting insight from all the work package and engage with the stakeholders through the stakeholders analysis. Next slide, please. We have already started to making a benchmarking and to see what has been done in previous projects. And as Bert presented, Data Landscape Project has already provided insight about the data ecosystems, and they have developed a European data market monitoring tool that contains more than 1,500 companies. And also this data landscape provides us a guide for companies classification, and Bert has introduced before this data ecosystem classification with several companies. Next slide. So we have already initiated the categorization of the stakeholders. We have identified the categories based on the business models of these companies, the role in the data ecosystem, data market, but also the type of stakeholders, because as you commented, we are trading with research companies, with the European Commission, but also with research projects and RTO. And then we are trading, or we are approaching different sectors, the financial sectors and telecom sectors that are part of this project, but also other sectors. Next slide, please. Then when we are working right now to better identify the key stakeholders for TRUSTS, because the different work packages provide us more insight to to better develop these categorization activities. And once, next slide, please. Once we have these categories and we have this stakeholder mapping and all the stakeholders that contribute us to create this data ecosystem, these results will be visible through the TRUSTS portal. So I encourage you to be stay tuned and follow our activities. Next slide, just to finalize. We invite you to become part of this vibrant data ecosystem and participate in TRUSTS projects. So please contact me or any of the work package or the members of the consortium. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Silvia. That was very on the point, and I hope people are interested and will get in touch with you and with us so we can start discussion on this very innovative and new topic of data market spaces and data marketplaces. Just a short announcement before we go to questions, because I see that time is running. There is a follow-up webinar already in 2 weeks if you're interested. It's views on IDS, trusts in the financial industry, enabling data sovereignty beyond existing solutions, on the 12th of November at 11 a.m. in the morning. And there is one, the next webinar on trusts planned for January 2021. It's about the operator business model options in a federated trusts data ecosystem, what Bert supported or presented in brief, in an overview. We will go into the nitty-gritty details and learn more about this topic. So stay tuned, we will inform you for sure. We go back, we have a little bit time left, so at least we have used the hours, but I guess we should take 2 or 3 questions. So let's see if we have questions on the plate. Manuela, I think it's your turn now to tell us about a question that is here.
Yes, if I can come in here, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. You always talked about federation, but what does a federation mean when different data marketplaces are involved?
Johannes, that's up to you, please.
Certainly. Thank you very much. I can take this question. Question. I think it's a key topic that all in the project discussed it a lot. It's in our top of our minds. So what I could say, we think that we envisage that trust will be certain a node of a valuable node in the worldwide digital ecosystem. But beyond that, we envisage that trust will be the glue of the disjunct nodes of this widespread ecosystem, European and worldwide. So in this way, we will create an end-to-end transparent ecosystem able to assist cross-industry proliferation and cross-industry development and improvement and progress, of course. So indirectly, I answered the federation, what does it mean, in a metaphorical way. In a practical way, how we envisage this federation and how we want to implement it. So federation is a mechanism, a set of consistent mechanisms that enables 2 different data marketplaces, 2 different initiatives with their own strategy, with their own platforms, with their own technology and their own processes to interoperate in a coherent and compliant way. So we will be able, through this consistent set of mechanisms, to exchange information in a compliant, as I said, way about data, about services, and about interesting parties that we would like to operate and collaborate with anyone in the ecosystem, no matter in which node is registered. So our work in this direction is to create these services, these glues, these APIs, and these nodes and these components in order to offer to whoever is interested in order to collaborate with us and us to collaborate with them. Besides this, we will deploy and we will design a set of consistent processes to reassure that all this collaboration will be transparent, compliance, and at the end of the day, be value added. So within our project proposition, and as you may see, the majority of our developments of our products are public and announced in our sites. We will offer a consistent set of such mechanisms and applications in order for users from the rest of the ecosystem and create this federated, as we say, endeavor to be offered transparently to our users, being end users, manufacturers, service providers, and data providers. So this is our vision for the federation, and we are technically and on the process as well, working in this direction, and we will have results soon throughout the course of our deliverables. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanis. Very good and comprehensive answer to the question. Thank you very much. That was an important one because I think lots of people are interested what it means, this federation. We are a little bit over time, but let's take 10 minutes over time if that's okay for one final short question, Manuela, and then we're going to close the webinar for today.
Yes, I would also like to ask, how is TRUSTS different from other data market research projects?
Thank you. Who would like to take this question? Maybe I mean, Yanis would be a good person to answer again, but Peter?
I can give a short answer.
Benjamin, yes, please.
Yeah, hello. So I'll just give a short answer from the technical perspective. One of the important differences of TRUSTS is that it keeps approaches for enforcing data sovereignty as a top-level priority from the start of the project. So technologies such as multi-party computation, homomorphic encryption, and different new areas of anonymization, such as differential privacy, are considered from the start and will also be considered in the different pilot projects. And I think this is a priority which a lot of other data marketplaces do not have right now. However, there's other perspectives that go beyond the technical perspective. I don't know if Yanis wanted to say something about that.
Benjamin, thank you very much. Sorry. May I? Yeah, thank you. I think the description about data sovereignty that Benjamin, our technical leader, gave is absolutely correct. This is one of the key focuses and one of the USPs, the unique selling points, quote unquote, of our project and our differentiation points. From the business perspective, as I said at the beginning, we have a 360, a holistic point of view. We do not address one specific vertical, academia or industrial vertical such as nanotechnology, biotechnology, material, whatever. We would like to have a consistent end-to-end approach and a compliance approach. We would like to follow the trends as Gaia-X and the compliances and propose solutions. So in this respect, this sovereignty and end-to-end approach, 360 holistic approach, I think is one of the key differentiators and one of the key value adds of the TRUSTS proposition in the digital ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanis. So I think we have a technical, but also more than a technical answer. As we're running out of time, I would say we will close the webinar here. I want to thank all the panelists. So maybe if you would like to just switch on your cameras so that we see your faces once again. I know some of us had already to go. So thank you, Peter, Natalia, Ioannis, Bert, Charlotte, Benjamin, and Sylvia. To be honest, it was a challenge. So many speakers in an hour, but I think we did a good job. Thank you very much for your presentations. Thanks to all participants to listen to us. Stay tuned. We will go into the nitty-gritty details of the TRUSTS projects in the next webinars. And have a great day. Stay safe and healthy these days. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye all. Bye.